Hey, have you guys ever heard of an Alabama wet wipe?
Is this how we're starting?
This is how we're starting
This is how we're starting this.
An Alabama wet wipe is where you blow your nose into your own toilet paper before you wipe your own ass with it. We're just trying to save money down here, folks. That's the only thing we're
Wet
doing.
wipes are damn expensive.
That's the only thing we're doing below the basic Dixon line, baby. We're just trying to live.
But here's the thing, like if you get that cheap toilet paper, if you're trying to save money, you're probably buying cheap toilet paper. If you get that cheap toilet paper and blow your nose, it's just going to tear apart anyway. You're just going to be wiping your ass with your hand, with snot booger in your hand.
Yeah, man, it's pretty. I mean, listen, I'm a big proponent of Angel Soft.
Yeah.
That's what I've always used. Yeah, I don't like Charmin and stuff because it tears too easy. And I don't want the chocolate finger, you know what I mean? Like, or to check my own oil mid-wipe, you know what I mean? Like Angel Soft it's soft enough that it doesn't hurt, and it's got enough grip that you can get something done.
See, I've not been like super partial about any toilet paper as long as it's not cheap. Like I don't like the cheap.
I'm telling you, you got to try Angel Soft then.
I have. No, I have. I don't mind Angel Soft. Charmin's okay. But my girlfriend, Desi, only likes Quilted Northern. It's the only thing she'll use. And it's fine. Like, I have no problems with it. But I can't buy anything else. That's all she wants.
That's all she wants. I've had finger slippage problems with both Quilted Northern and Charmin before. Yeah. Angel Soft's just a good, like, tough, durable toilet paper, and I have a hairy ass, so like, it's like, you know, you got to have like some rough texture to face that rough texture. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to have enough grip. It needs to be soft. I don't want like a fucking chafed ass from wiping, but like it's got to have enough grip to get it clean and strong enough that you know your finger's not going to go through, and then also soft enough that you know. You don't have duty, you don't have a chafed ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it is what it is. But I don't want duty finger. I know.
Right.
I'll tell you another thing. Disclosing too much information right here. I am a lift the balls and through the legs wiper because I have a fear of getting shit up my back.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. And that actually has led to, this last time I threw my back out was the worst time I've ever threw my back out. But the second to worst time I've ever pulled a QL was wiping my ass.
Mm-hmm. I think I remember
because you're between the legs wiper and you got the balls lifted, you do kind of have to like
come up and
you got to have a little bit of lean.
Yeah.
And that fucks my back up one time. So, I mean, I have a fear of getting. Listen, if you got shit up your back, somebody's going to see it. You got shit on your tank. I mean, you're probably going to be a little bit aware of it and clean that shit up before you get up.
Right.
You know. I just feel like up the back could be disastrous. I've always had a monstrous fear of having shit up my back.
I feel like you're probably not going to...
From being a behind whopper.
But I feel like you're not going to run that far up your back,
You
right?
never know, though. I mean, it could just be a slip up.
If you got some, like, diarrhea, like, it's real, like... Maybe. I could see it. You know,
all 10 of our listeners have tuned out now.
You know, I did have a plan how to start this episode with, apologizing for being out for 2 weeks. And now they're just like, we're out for 3 weeks.
We can cut it out if you need to. Do we need to restart with Alabama wet wipe joke?
No.
We'll just put a disclaimer to fast forward at approximately 4 minutes before before starting the episode.
Alabama wet wipe.
An Alabama wet wipe.
Well, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Yeah.
I'm Nathan. This is Zack. I'm at Nathan Skedios on Instagram.
I'm at ZG Summer Shredding Journey, something like that. I don't remember.
I think it's Summer Shred Journey.
My bad. Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Liable to change. I had to drop out.
Yeah.
Got a baby due, a week before a week after I compete. So
more than likely, it's either going to be early or
late one, right? Like it never comes on the due date. So, yeah. So I'm probably postponing it. Honestly, if the weight loss happens for me, maybe I don't do it. I don't know. I mean, if it does it, if I get it done. I am on a medically recommended diet now, so some weight loss is going to happen whether I want it to or not.
Right.
So it is what it is. So, yeah.
If you didn't tune out or just completely unfollow us from the Alabama wet wipe, Give us 5 stars on Spotify.
Yeah, please give us 5 stars.
Don't give us 1 star because of the joke. We're sorry. It was just a joke. Calm down.
I think we've said more offensive things on the podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And
maybe
like more into the meat of the podcast.
Yeah, not quite.
Not quite at the beginning.
The very beginning, like, y'all ever heard about this thing called
an Alabama wet welt?
Oh,
it is what it is. We'll talk about an Alaskan pipeline on a later episode.
Or we could not.
We could not. That's definitely going to have to happen in the meat of an episode. A lot of people's going to tune out for that one.
So
everybody's going to Google an Alaskan pipeline now. Oh yeah, drinks. We attempted to make Manhattans and they kind of suck, honestly.
Mine is okay, but the first run I did not like.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I really do feel like this is something. If y'all didn't know, I'm gonna be a snot for just a second. You're supposed to have specific, especially with whiskey drinks, I feel like it's really important. You're supposed to have specific glassware depending on the drink because the aromatics makes it different in the way something tastes and the way you experience something. So Manhattan is normally served, one of the few whiskey drinks that's served in a martini glass. We didn't have martini glasses. We did it in, a regular bourbon glass. I don't know if that made all the difference. I feel like we're back to that. Honestly, with the one I made first, I think we're back to that chocolate whiskey just sucking.
Yeah.
Is what I'm tasting, because yours is a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like it has a better flavor to it, at least.
Yeah, and look at the cloudiness. You got a good clear drink, and mine looks like shit water.
It kind of does. It kind of tastes
It just is what it is. But a lot of the times we're winging these things, but a Manhattan's a good drink, so if you want one, 2 ounces of your favorite bourbon or whiskey, half ounce of sweet vermouth, and a cherry. That's it. Yeah. We did use 2 different types of whiskey because we did kind of want to go for a chocolate cherry Manhattan. And you're supposed to use bitters too. We used chocolate bitters because I wanted a chocolate cherry Manhattan. But I don't know that I achieved that. But yeah, that's a pretty easy drink to make.
Yep. Good
3 or 4 ingredient drink. Most of the time they taste better than this. I fucked up. That's what it is.
We didn't have a lot of the right stuff to do it anyway. So
yeah, I'm telling you, I think the glass makes a lot of difference, and I really do think I fucked up by using the chocolate whiskey that both of us agree is fucking gross. So
also, we had some pretty big hits in our random stuff, so having one bomb kind of
it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
I also have a cheap can of canned Bahama Mama in the refrigerator that I'm probably
going to
indulge after this. Yeah.
I mean, it's really not that bad, though. I tasted a little bit of it.
No, it wasn't that bad. It's not like you made it yourself.
But it's fine.
It is. It's okay. Yeah, that's it on the drinks, though. Gym stuff?
Yeah, gym stuff.
It's been a little while.
Yeah, so
we've been on vacation. Grandma died.
It's been an eventful.
May she rest in peace. It was my grandmother, so it's okay if I laugh.
I was gonna say, I kind of feel bad for laughing, but when you laugh, I just
I mean, listen, I'll tell them like I told you. She had a really good attitude about it. It's hard to be sad for her. She was a fucking champion, dude. That's a strong ass woman, and she wasn't sad, so I found it hard to be sad.
Yeah.
Dealt with some other family drama that made the week suck, but in terms of her attitude about it, she was ready to go. She was the same person she always is. Wasn't scared. Just a badass woman in general. She'd get on to me about my language, but yeah, just an absolute hard ass. Just no fear. I don't know if there's something that a switch that flips when you get that old or not. She was 91, going to be 92 next week. I don't know if there's a switch that flips or what, but she was just had no fear of dying whatsoever. Yeah. So, like I said, kind of badass. It's hard to be sad for her.
Yeah. So. I guess 92, that's a pretty full life.
That's a pretty fucking full life. I mean, they were married for 70 plus years. So, I mean, pretty fucking solid, to be honest. So, I'm proud of her. Definitely a long way to go. And like I said, I just find it hard to be sad when somebody is
just
no fear of it. It wasn't a tragedy, you know what I mean? Nothing like that. I mean, it's, kind of honestly a pretty positive thing. So.
Yeah, that's always good. I guess I've just never had a good,
most people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably the first positive experience I've had with death.
Yeah.
I mean,
because most of the time it's just something horrible happens or it's tragic, Yeah. I guess the closest thing was when my granddad died on my dad's side. And he was just kind of he he was living off of oxygen basically.
Yeah.
If they take the oxygen off, he's just gonna fade out. And he got to a point where it was just like he was ready to go. He talked with my dad. Both of them agreed. It was just, it was time to go. And we were there when he faded out, and it was sad, but it wasn't as like devastating as something traumatic would be.
Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely. She didn't have for the past 3 or 4 years, she didn't have a super high quality of life anyway. Yeah. So it was humane, to be honest. I mean, that's the only way to put it. So, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, that was my week. We're both starting new shit in the gym this week. Not really a lot to talk about this past week because you deloaded.
I deloaded, yeah. The only cool thing I did was 355 for 8 bench press, which is already on my Instagram, which is a PR. And then my deload was kind of a deload where I did 385 press at an RP like 6. And I pulled 635 at an RP like maybe 7. It's 6 or a 7, I would say. Yeah. So those were. It was cool to kind of like just do it just to be like, oh shit, this can move really well, and it's like my openers of my last meet, and it feels more like a warm up than an opener. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
That's a good thing. Yeah. So I am. Despite being a personal trainer, I mean, I've used the shit out of some AI. I feel like I learned a lot on Juggernaut AI personally. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot about what not to do from Juggernaut AI. I have pretty strong opinions about some things they get very right and some things I feel like they got very wrong. Yeah. I mean, the barbell volume was ridiculous. The lack of accessory work in another sense was ridiculous. Yeah. The volume's a little fucky to me.
Yeah. I feel like their peak protocol was really good. Like when I used it, I feel like the peak was set up really well, but some of the other stuff was really...
I feel like their approach is almost too, across the board, it's almost too basic, even when it's individualized by AI.
That makes sense.
It almost feels like you're a power lifter. You're just going to squat, bench, and deadlift, and that's it.
Right.
And I just don't think that's modern powerlifting, to be honest with you.
I don't believe it is either.
But I am starting. I'm in the beta test for the new RP hypertrophy app, which I'm not sure is quite AI. I don't know what they're necessarily calling it, but
I don't think they've ever referred to it as AI.
So. I started tomorrow, and it looks very much like an RP template that I've used, significantly during off seasons and stuff. So I am excited about that, and I'm doing something I thought I'd never go back to, but. Got some bad medical news, not necessarily that I'm dying. Basically, just I'm fucking fat and I'm an alcoholic. Cheers. I got some bad blood work. And one of the things I need to do is improve my cardiovascular health. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to do HIIT training on my own. Yeah. And that's what I need right now to increase my work capacity and also to get healthy again. I will do lists on my own. Like I can do 30 or 45 minutes on the treadmill, but I'm not going to do HIIT training. So I signed back up for CrossFit. Yep. And I'm starting probably 2 or 3 days a week at the 5 a.m. class at 4 Arrows. So shout out to 4 Arrows. I'm not going to be dumb. I'm not going to do any dick measuring in there. I'm going to scale everything appropriately, and I'm just not going to get in a hurry.
Yeah.
So
supposedly that's how you get good at CrossFit, right?
Yeah, keeping your heart rate relatively low compared to the rest of the class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm not going to go in there and try to bust out PRs on every benchmark they do or anything like that. I am going to be stronger than everybody there just to fucking flex on them. Right. But other than that, so this week in the gym, I found a CrossFit total just for the fuck of it, and then I wrapped up Strong List 5x5, which kind of got me back on. Not back where I was, but it definitely got me back on track with my squat, bench, and deadlift. So, and my overhead press too. So, I feel pretty good in general. Right now, knock on wood, injury free. Hopefully, CrossFit doesn't allow me to find some new ones. Yeah. So, an interesting week, and then you have really, really big news about your programming.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of. So, I mean, I've been doing my own programming
since you left me.
For a long time, yeah. I did Juggernaut for my past meet, so this is the first time in a while that I'm not touching my programming at all, and Joe Sullivan's doing my programming. Which I start with him on Tuesday technically, but today was kind of like my first day because I was addressing some squat issues with him, which was really positive. A lot of good back and forth. I thought I was getting on his nerves, to be honest with you, because I was blowing him up. And I was like, what do you want? This, or this? And then he'd be like, this one. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd do it again. And I'd be like, well, what about this? And I was just like, I felt bad because I'm like, he's going to like refund me my money and say, get the fuck out of here. You're annoying. But no, it's pretty exciting. I'll see what he has me starting on Tuesday. I'm imagining it's going to be a 4-day work week most of the time. And then probably a lot of squatting and a lot of accessory. I feel like he's going to hit my glutes really hard in accessory work.
I can imagine so. You talked to him about it today, and then me just being able to be there to witness and what the conversations we've had before. I feel like toward the end of our conversations about the issues with your squat, we were leaning more toward glute issues than most things.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I mean, it makes sense. And honestly, just to say about blowing him up, I'd rather have the client that blows me up about stuff than the one that
doesn't listen,
never checks in, doesn't listen, doesn't keep me up to speed on things, skips things.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather have the person that blows me up because you're going to care enough to not blame everything on me.
Right.
That person that doesn't care to talk to me or fill me in is going to be the same person that's like pissed off at the end of a block because they didn't get stronger.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you didn't get stronger because you didn't do 75% of the work I put on the fucking paper, bud. So I doubt very seriously Joe would be annoyed with that. And he probably experiences the same thing.
Yeah, I have seen some of his posts. Sometimes he gets Q&As and stuff on Instagram stuff. And he was like, his favorite clients are the ones that engage in conversation with him. So I'm hoping that I'm more leaning towards that and not just annoying him all the time. But, I'm going to try and find some sort of healthy balance there because
I think all of us, coach-wise, all of us want to be treated like a fucking human. We don't want to be treated like a robot.
Right.
I mean, I tried to be that way with Ron. You know what I mean? Ask him how he's doing. Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be dumb small talk to most people, but like honestly, for a coach, when you're paid to do a service, like, a lot of times what we're missing is some real like human connection. And
right.
A lot of people do treat us like we're robots and don't ask us how we're doing or check in on us and that kind of stuff. So I think some of the small talk stuff's kind of nice, to be honest.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I think that he obviously, like you said, he's added on his Q&A. He obviously feels the same.
Yeah.
So, oops.
Oh, shit. No, it's okay.
It is what it is.
So, PR songs.
Yeah, I actually got fucking new shit today.
Oh, man.
I will say I'm still spinning the shit out of the new Acacia strain, but that's not what we're going to go with. You want to take turns on this one?
Sure. Yeah, you can start.
First of all, I got to plug this guy. We need to, because he's keeping me in on new music all the time. Clay Byram used to keep me in on new music. I haven't talked to Clay in a while, but there's an account I follow called Brandon Breakdown. Yeah. He's on the Sip and Rip It page.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Well.
But I follow him on my personal too, and he posts new metal and hardcore all the time. And like he gives you like the top 3 songs of the week. So this is one of those songs, and it's the name of the song is Hall of Sin by a band called In Gloom, and it fucking rips.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, that's a good place to find new music, especially if you're an old ass millennial like me and don't stay plugged into the music scene or anything like that anymore. So Brandon Breakdown, go follow that guy.
I guess I will go with a band that I've put on probably a few times in the past few episodes, actually. But Annihilation Phenomena by The Last 10 Seconds of Life. That's
becoming your Acacia strain.
I mean, I just keep like finding songs. Like I have that whole. It's the same album, and I have that whole album on my playlist. And I always just hit shuffle on my playlist, and whatever pops up is usually what I listen to, or I'll skip around until I find something. And that one just popped up, and I was just like, God. And I immediately just pulled out my phone and was like, I'm writing this one down. This needs to go on the list. So, Annihilation Phenomena by The Last 10 Seconds of Life.
Hell yeah. Another new one for me is a band called Throne, like THROWN, like you're being thrown.
Yeah.
And the name of the song's Guilt. That's another Brandon Breakdown suggestion, and it's also fucking rips. So this is all brand new to me, so I normally would elaborate, but most of these I've listened to just once or twice, but it's really
just
fucking good. Yeah,
that's most of the time with mine. I'll put on, this is a kind of older song. It's Silenced by Dath. I don't know if you know Dath. DAATH.
I think I have heard
like a deathcore band. I think I've had them on a couple times, but yeah, this song's pretty fast, pretty heavy. It's a lot of their stuff is kind of like it's just that deathcore. It's kind of, and I hate calling it generic, but it's kind of that generic deathcore sound. But like, I don't know, I just like the way they sound.
I hear you. My third one, pour one out for my grandmother. I'm going to put this one on here for her. She would not have liked this song, but I kind of don't give a fuck. Is a band called Issues, which I've put a song or two by them on here before. And the name of the song is Remember When. So shout out to Grandma. I'm also going to drink some whiskey you would not have a brewed up.
She's not an alcohol drinker, or?
No, very, very religious woman.
Yeah.
So.
Only wine?
Never. No, she's Church of God.
Wine? So. Oh, okay.
Alcohol forbidden, bud.
Gotcha.
She's only like one generation removed from, snake handling and wearing skirts and no makeup all the time. So
gotcha.
Very, very, honestly, if she would have had her preference, she probably would have been in one of those churches. So, like, real Southern Pentecostal woman for sure. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, for my last one, I will go with I Killed a Man by Slaughter to Prevail.
There you go.
It's
very, very straight and to the point song. You gotta love that about some metal sometimes.
And Slaughter to Prevail, they're a Russian band, so I think sometimes translation gets a little weird, and I think that may have been
one of those times where
it's just like, fuck it, I killed a man. Like,
easy peasy.
It probably sounds a lot different in Russian to say that phrase than it does in.
I can imagine it probably does,
But yeah, no, it's a really good song though, especially like the breakdown starts and he just says, "I killed a man," and then the breakdown starts. It's like it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean, it might be getting lost in translation to some extent. Good thing we have good American death metal like Cannibal Corpse, where they're just like, "I come blood." That's it.
Or one of their newer.
Fucked with a knife. Red Before Black's really not that obvious, but
no.
I mean, I'm trying to think.
There's some of their Corpse Grinder stuff is kind of like that though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of stuff I feel like on some new shit, and I feel like we got to listen. We always go up on tangents about Cannibal Corpse. Cannibal Corpse and Metallica get talked about way too goddamn much on this show.
They're kind of like the goats, though, right?
I mean, they really are. It's like the goat of thrash and the goat of
death metal.
I mean, okay, so my favorite record probably is one of the newest ones, The Violence Unimagined.
Yeah, that's
Murderous really Rampage, one of the first fucking, absolutely. Very straight into they have another one on that record, Surround, Kill, and Devour.
Yep.
Very, very just like, yeah, we're going to talk about killing you, and
that's actually on a shirt. It. They have a shirt that just says Surround, Kill, Devour.
I need that fucking shirt. Skeletal Domain's another one of my favorite records, and I laugh every time I listen to this song, but have you ever listened to High Velocity Impact Spatter?
No.
Dude, that song's so goddamn funny to me. I mean, it rips, but it is so, like, the lyrics are funny to me. But,
well,
Killer Become, it's pretty, Ice Pick Lobotomy. They're just like, yeah, we're just going to say what we mean.
There's no hidden messages here.
No simile, no metaphor. We're just,
you don't have to play the record backwards to hear the devil. You just play it regularly.
And the devil's all over it. And that's the way I prefer my Satan.
It's like, let's just be blatant
right there and up front, baby. Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we'll just get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, meat and potatoes.
Which is kind of a pretty good segue. So we were talking a little bit beforehand, but I had this thought that a lot of people don't know the pros and cons of like getting bigger. I mean, a lot of people know the pros of getting bigger, but a lot of people don't know the cons of getting bigger. So I had this thought of, is bigger better? And that was kind of the idea of the topic today. My
personal experience, and I'm living through it now because I'm trying to undo the things I've done by having a bigger is better mindset, is no. You want high blood pressure and fucked up blood work and a specialized diet and have to kick a drinking habit, like stuff like that. Then the answer is no. Bigger is not necessarily better. And I'll reference Louis Simmons, and I don't necessarily agree with conjugate programming all the time. I think this has its benefits, but Louis says, big isn't strong, strong is strong.
That's true.
That's a Louis Simmons quote.
Yeah.
some of the strongest people I know are relatively tiny people. Think about here in the state of Alabama, like, I know he's moved up a couple of weight classes, but Ron's not a very big man.
No,
Jawan's not a very big man. Justin, who's my best friend and one of the strongest people I've ever met before in my life, not a big man.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can name several examples of big men that are really fucking good, but big isn't necessarily better.
Right.
So this has the correct response is very, very nuanced, and that's what we're about to get in on. But what is your initial opinion on it?
So, and it's probably just opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Because, well, I mean, you were actually really thin too before you started lifting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was super thin, but I guess I haven't gotten to the heaviest I've gotten is 250. And to an extent, I would say yes, bigger is better, but only in specific
context.
Yes. So like you go, me with my frame being 180, I was very thin. I was very lanky. I wasn't strong at all. Well, I mean, I say I wasn't strong.
You were probably strong for a 180-pound man.
I had a good bench press for 180 pounds, which was 295. Now my squat and my deadlift, not so good. But I was a good bench presser for my size. Now, as I've gotten bigger and stronger, I do realize that there is a correlation between the two because more muscle fibers recruit more strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's some amount of give and take when it comes to getting bigger, because even though you have more muscle fibers, there are, like you said, high blood pressure. People don't think about this often. The price of food, man, like you got to eat so much goddamn food to like, especially when you're like me and you have a high metabolism.
You walk, 20,000 steps a day at work, or one time you did?
I used to walk tons, at least 20,000 a day. So for me to retain weight, I had to eat so much food. It made me sick to my stomach sometimes, especially when I first started. I remember very specifically, I would eat a huge breakfast. It'd be like 4 eggs, 2 pieces of toast, cheese, and I think I did ham at the time. I was mixing ham in with my scrambled eggs. An hour later, maybe not even an hour later, I'd have a scoop of mass gainer, some milk mixed in with my coffee. I would be wanting to throw up by the time I got to work.
Yeah.
A couple hours later, like 3 or 4 hours later, I'd eat a whole Jimmy John sandwich, like a whole
12-inch full. Like,
I think they were 8 inches, but I like piled them up. With, like,
that's
everything.
A big fucking sandwich, one way or the
other. Usually like 800 calories at least. And then after work, I'd go home. I'd eat again. I don't remember. It'd either be chicken and rice or steak and potatoes and broccoli. And then I'd go to the gym. I'd come home. I'd eat again, which would be one or the other. And then before bed, I'd eat again.
Yeah.
And it took me so long to not feel like I was going to throw up every single day.
Yeah.
So there is, and the price of food, like the eating all that food, like if you want to eat good, clean food, it can get expensive if you're not careful.
Sure. Yeah.
Obviously, planning ahead, doing your macros, meal planning, that helps a lot, and it keeps you from spending a whole bunch of money. And at the time, I was really broke, so I had to budget really hard. I was eating a ton of chicken. Yeah. The steak wasn't as expensive as it was now. It's probably half the price.
Yeah.
So it was a little more attainable, but man, the price of food, like how much you have to eat, the feeling of being bloated all the time, it's hard.
Yeah, just a few, like off the top of my head, negatives about being bigger that aren't health related are leverages change.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, anytime I have been a heavier body weight, my bench press has gone up.
Yeah.
Anytime I've been in a heavier body weight, my squat has gone up. That being said, deadlifts, there's definitely a point, especially if you're a conventional puller, there's a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, because
if you've ever been so fat and got so much weight out in front of you that your belt doesn't fit right, never feels good, man, it is hard to get in a good posture, a good conventional deadlift position. Mm-hmm. And I do believe, I just did it. I'm 30 pounds lighter than I was on meet day and pulled what probably would have been my second heaviest deadlift of prep that I've been prepping in. And I did it really easy. Mm-hmm. And I'm much, much lighter than I was.
Right.
I think that, immediately I think of my deadlift leverage has changed dramatically when I get heavier.
Yeah.
And me being a deadlift dominant athlete, it's not good if my deadlift takes a hit.
Right. Yeah.
Even if the other two go up, because, you're talking about something I do, I can pull 150 more pounds than I can squat. Right. So, it's definitely there's definitely a point of diminishing returns with it.
One of the other things I think about, and it's something we both suffer from, is sleep apnea.
Yeah, so absolutely.
The bigger you get, the more size in your neck, the more it closes, I guess, your esophagus.
Yeah.
So it's just harder to breathe. I've noticed being lighter, because when I cut down to, I eventually hit 199, but just in the process of getting lighter than 230, I stopped snoring. And the only reason I know that is because my girlfriend told me, hey, you're not snoring anymore. And I was like, what? I've snored forever, because I was always, well, obviously not forever, but when I got heavier. And so it was kind of like a, dang, and I have a CPAP and I should wear it. I just can't fall asleep with it on. So I'm doing a couple things to try and remedy that. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have to remedy it if I was lighter. Yeah. Being heavier did cost me that.
Absolutely. So, sleep quality is lower. That's a good point. Obviously, we've already talked about the health aspects. I mean, bad blood pressure, shit like that. Leverages, that's all super, super true. You look like shit, so it tends to make you feel like shit. You look a little worse, and you feel less good about yourself. It just is what it is. To a point, I do feel more confident heavier.
Right.
Not when I'm close to 300 pounds like I was prepping for this meet. Yeah. Don't really necessarily want to be that big. I feel good when I'm 250, 260, 270. I don't feel good at 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't feel confident at 300 pounds. It makes me feel like a fat fuck when I'm a fat kid on the playground all over again.
Right.
So there's a mental health aspect to it too. But one of the biggest things that we haven't talked about yet is work capacity suffers.
Yeah.
I can handle less volume, and if you're a novice or Nathan's beyond intermediate now, but if you're a novice or intermediate powerlifter, I'm an intermediate, probably an upper level intermediate, but I'm still an intermediate. One of the best things to get you better is just training volume. And it's not necessarily that it has to be just super fucking heavy. It can be an empty barbell. But I've talked about it before. It's practice. It's practicing your craft. If your work capacity sucks, you're going to miss out on practice and fine-tuning your craft.
Or you have to adjust the weight to where you don't get as much benefit out of it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. You don't get as much hypertrophic or CNS fatigue.
Yeah, you could be like, well, normally I hit 300 pounds for 10 reps, but now, I can't hit that for 10 reps. I feel strong, but I can't hit it consistently for 10 reps.
Because I can't breathe through 10 reps.
So I'm doing 225 for 10 because it's lighter and it doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah, that's probably a 75-pound hit's probably a little extreme.
Well,
I know what you're saying though. Work capacity is a huge thing, and if you don't think it makes you better, I mean, I've already talked about Louis Simmons. I'm not a real big conjugate fan. I do believe some of it works, but a principle that seems to be making a resurgence in powerlifting is the idea of GPP. There's a reason why Louis had people practice things that were high intensity and hard on their breathing and stuff like that, because he knew it increased their work capacity and would make them a better powerlifter.
Right.
Increased work capacity is an incredibly important thing for the sport. Even though we're in a one rep max sport, you're going to have sets of 10 to 15 reps to get better at your 1 rep max. Yeah. That just is what it is. Now, typically, we're not going to see that on squat or deadlift, but it's not uncommon for me to program 12 to 15 reps on a bench press.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. Depending on the coach, I've had coaches give me 12 to 15 reps on squat or deadlift. Ron didn't do that on deadlift. Brandon did. Brandon was like, hey, you got 365 today. I want you to hit it for as many reps as you can. And if you give me any less than 10, find a new coach. You know what I mean? Like,
he was going to fire you.
Like, it was just that. And you know what? I got my first big deadlift with Brandon because he just didn't give me the fucking option. You know? So, I mean, that work capacity is an incredibly valuable fucking thing.
Yep.
I'd be willing to bet, even though I've added a couple 100 pounds to my total, I'd be willing to bet my dots was probably better when I was 250 working with Brandon than I was 300 working with Ron.
Yeah.
So it just is what it is. That's not Ron's fault.
Right.
That's me for being a fat fuck's fault. You know what I mean? But it just kind of is what it is. But that's all my complaints about being heavy.
I do have one more complaint about being heavy, and it kind of ties into the food. You shit so much.
You do.
God damn, dude. Like, when I was cutting, I got to a point where my girlfriend was concerned because I was pooping once a day. That's like normal.
Yeah, it's like
a normal person.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like consistently 5 or 6 times a day.
At least 3 times a day. Yeah. Like that is the minimum for me, is like 3 times a day. It's always when I wake up, and sometime after that, and sometime before bed. Like always. Sometimes more depending on what I eat, or if I eat more than normal, which is rare because currently I really hate eating a ton, but I'm doing it to stay in the 250-ish area so I don't have to cut majorly.
Sure.
I don't want to go over, but I also don't want to lose out on anything that I can retain currently going into October. But
so being heavy in the correct way to do it and the benefits of it, obviously the direct benefit of it, the obviously benefit of it is mass moves mass. The bigger you are, theoretically, the stronger you should be. That particularly, though, should pertain to muscle mass, though.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into the reason why my preference is to be big, but why there's caveats to that. The biggest thing is your weight class. And this should be judged based off your height. Me and Nathan had a conversation about this today. Me being 6'1", 6'2", him being probably 5'11", 6 foot.
Yeah, something.
We're bigger dudes. Naturally, we're pretty broad shouldered. Even when he was thinner, he was pretty wide. We're big dudes. We're tall. We're not super tall, but we are tall men. We should probably be in the heavier weight class. We're talking about Nathan, if he was a professional, probably should be in a 275. And me being a little taller, I should probably be a super heavyweight. You should probably judge your weight class based on your height, to be honest with you. I mean, I believe that.
I think your overall frame should be the main thing. Height does matter significantly, but also there are some people who are really tall that do have like a thinner frame than me or you.
Yeah, it should be said too, though. Whatever your there's definitely a difference between how you'd be best as a professional and how you're going to be best health wise.
Yeah.
So it should be known. I know I had a coach in Brandon Allen that told me I had the frame for 308 or 308 plus, which is super heavyweights. I believe that. That being said, I just got done being 300 pounds. I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
And also, because I'm realistic about my own ability to be a professional powerlifter, I am never going to go set a world record, not unless it's 20 years from now and I'm a master's athlete. I'm not going to set a world record. I'm not going to be somebody that is a household name in powerlifting. So for me, there's just personally no reason for me to be 308 plus.
Right.
That being said, what I should be doing is I would like to compete at 275. So my thoughts on this are, and you see professionals do it all the time. I feel like Joe Sullivan's a master of it. John Hack is obviously a master of it because he's done it in 3 lightweight weight classes at 198, 181, 198, and 220, right? So he's done it, and he's done it very, very well. You should be as healthy and as low body fat as you can, and simultaneously as heavy as you can be inside your weight class.
Yeah.
That's my feelings on it now. So for me, if I want to be a successful 275-pound powerlifter, I should be as low a body fat percentage as I can and as close to that 275 mark as I can be without going over.
Right. Well, technically, you could go over as long as you can cut down to a weight.
You could, but that's we're talking about meet day weight. You know, I should be as muscular and as less fat as I can and as heavy as I can inside of my weight class.
Right. And
I think that is really the idea. And I have another theory, and I don't know, maybe Dr. Lane's talked about this. I think that your muscle mass, for you to achieve an elite level of strength, your muscle mass should measure about half or more of your total body weight.
Yeah.
So for me right now, I did have a spell where I took a bunch of muscle relaxers, and it got my muscle mass down to about 110. Normally I set it about 120 or 125 pounds of muscle mass. Me being a 300-pound athlete, that means I'm 25 pounds. In my opinion, it means I'm 25 pounds of muscle behind.
Right.
You're probably a little closer. I think we've talked about your scan before. You measure between, like 115 and 120, and you're at 242. So you're a little bit closer to being correct for an elite level of strength.
Yeah.
Look at somebody like John Hack, though. That guy's got big fucking... He's pretty fucking yoked to be as lightweight as he is.
He's extremely, like...
I would say that more than 50% of his body weight is muscle.
Yeah, probably. I'd be curious to look at one of his body scans. I know Joe Sullivan posted one on his page because he likes to post his blood work and his body scans and stuff. So I wonder about his. I'm very curious.
I do have a theory, and it's really a little bit more than a theory. It's a hunch, but I do have it just from the athletes I've trained, good versus the bad, and. Just what I see from professional powerlifters, I really do think that your muscle mass should be at half or a little bit more than your total body weight.
Yeah.
So I think when you've achieved that, and of course muscle mass doesn't necessarily translate to strength, but it does. A bigger muscle does have a higher ceiling for strength.
Right.
So if you have a higher capacity for strength, you can absolutely train it to be stronger. But there's a reason also why 198-pound John Hack is stronger than 300-pound bodybuilders.
Right.
Yeah, they have a lot more muscle, but their strength capacity could be higher than his. But they're not currently stronger because they don't undergo the same CNS fatigue and CNS changes that he does. So there's other caveats to that, but I do think you should be as muscular as you possibly can be within your weight class, and I think to achieve that you need a skeletal muscle mass of 50% or higher of your total body weight.
Yeah, I don't think I can really add anything to that because that's basically what I would agree with everything that you said.
I would be interested to see what somebody like Joe's extremely muscular. I feel like Joe's probably 6 weeks out from stepping on his first bodybuilding stage if he wanted to. Like, if he wanted to really get into conditioning or something.
He does always stay super lean for his size, and I feel like that's what has kept him going.
He's maximized his frame to a pretty good degree. He generally competes at either 220 or 242, right? So I think
he always competes at 220. I don't know that he's competed at 242, but
still though, he's obviously got a lot of muscle on him for 220 pounds.
No, he's built like a freaking tank.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really do think to reach that elite level of strength, I think that's. I would love to hear a professional
chime in on it.
Chime in and tell me I'm wrong or tell me I'm right. Tell me maybe nobody's ever studied this before. I don't know, but I do feel I've been around a lot of body scans, and I feel like the strongest athletes I've seen are. Locally is obviously not going to be 50% of the total muscle mass, but like 45 or higher. So I have a theory that an elite muscle is 50% or higher of your total body weight. And I think that's what it takes to have elite strength. And I think the only way to do that is to maximize your weight class, basically being as lean as you can be and as heavy as you can be in an existing weight class.
I would be curious to hear the thoughts of someone like Dan Bell or Brandon Allen about that, because they never really stayed super lean, but they were all very strong.
They were very, very strong. I would be willing to say that they're probably pretty close to that, though.
Right.
I mean, you can go back and look at old videos of Brandon Allen, and yeah, he had a beer belly, but like visibly a very muscular person.
Yeah,
Dan Bell the same way.
Yeah, you can tell that they're very strong.
Look at like
by looking
professional strongmen.
Yeah.
Now, of course, strongman. I've talked about how annoying it is that it favors a more athletic body type than it does a big man now, because it's not world's most athletic man; it's world's strongest man. Eat my shorts. I don't really fucking care. I feel like they should go to the strongest person,
right?
Not the fastest person with a Husafeld stone. Like it is what it is. But look at even the heavyweights of yesteryear. The people that won it: Brian Shaw, Thor, and Eddie Hall.
They're all very muscular.
Eddie was probably a little fat because he was a little short.
Yeah.
There was times even competing in strongman that Thor had visible abs.
Yeah, that is true.
And he was a real heavyweight strong, 400+ pound strongman,
right.
Not the Martin Lisis or Mitchell Hooper that you see of today. Like, he was a very, very large person and had visible abs.
Right. He's also very tall. He's also, 6'7", 6'8".
6'9", I think.
6'9". So that does kind of add to his frame.
Yeah, absolutely it does. But I would I think I can stand by that, honestly. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
I'd just be curious to see, like, Dan Bell's body scan and just be like, what does it actually look like? Because, I mean, he is one of the greatest powerlifters of all time, and he is pretty heavy, too. So
if he's not at the 50% mark, I bet he's real close to it.
Yeah.
You know.
But I guess in that instance, you know, you say you got, you know, 350, you know, how much muscle mass is that? It's 175 pounds of muscle mass. That's like a whole human being in just muscle mass.
Yeah, absolutely. So me at if I bet I'm scanning a lot heavier than this because I've not been on 2 weeks of muscle relaxers like I was last time I scanned. But just me at 210 or 110 of body skeletal muscle mass, that puts me at 40% muscle. You can tell by looking at me, I'm not a super athletic person. So, I mean, I'm telling you, I think 50% is attainable by some of these, even the big guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me to have that now, I mean, what would, let's see, half of 275, I mean, I'm basically 27 and a half pounds behind in muscle mass compared to what I should be as a 275-pound powerlifter, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is something to that number.
And there is also something to say about having a little bit of body fat too, though, right? Because
I mean,
there are benefits strength-wise.
Mass moves mass,
right?
I mean, that's the truth. I just don't necessarily. I just think that when you're looking at,
I guess my argument is kind of like, there's a somewhere line, so you don't want to be so lean that you're going to step on stage, right? Because that's too lean, you're not going to be able to.
Well, that starts negatively affecting work capacity.
Exactly,
because you do have to have fat reserves for energy.
Yeah. So you do want to have an amount of body fat on you for powerlifting in general.
What's your current weight?
It's either 249 or 250.
So by your last scan, I feel like you were 120 by your last scan.
Yeah.
So divided by 249, you have nearly an elite total now, and probably will total elite, and you're at 48% body fat, 48% muscle. So, I mean, I just think that, I mean, just sitting here in the room talking about two very different athletes, and there's a 250-pound difference between my total and your total.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, just looking at two people, you know what I mean?
And I'm not arguing.
But, you know, even still, though, like, even though you're closer to 50%, you're not 10% body fat right now.
No.
You're higher than that.
I'm probably like 20, 15.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're 15 to 20% body fat, so that simultaneously proves your point. Like, you don't necessarily have to be lean to achieve this 50% number.
Yeah.
But you very realistically could be, especially after you cut down to 242, you very well realistically could be 50% of your total weight and muscle by the time you compete.
I wish I had a place to get a scan done.
Yeah, I mean, I go to QC Wellness now, and they do an in-body scan or whatever for us now. But I really believe that there's something to that number. And it's completely speculative, but I think that there's something to that number.
It could be your first trial run. It'd be me.
Could be.
Just go in there, get a scan done.
But let me tell you something. Even if I'm talking out my ass about that number and it's not as related as I think it is, I promise you, if you gain 2.5% muscle to get to that even 50%, I bet you it ain't going to be a problem for your total.
No, definitely not.
So I'm just going to say, how wrong can I be? You know what I mean?
Like, how wrong can I be? Impact anything.
No, there's no way it's going to. That number being bigger is no way it's a negative impact on anything.
Yeah, it's only going to make your total better.
And you look at somebody like John Hack, probably legitimately walks around at 10% body fat.
Yeah,
he's visibly pretty fucking lean in all his videos. Mm-hmm. There's a very real possibility he's toting around 120 pounds of muscle on a 200-pound frame.
Yeah,
and that's an incredibly large number.
Yeah, that's
60%.
Yeah.
So, but you're talking about the elite of the elite. Some people call him the GOAT. Y'all know how I feel about him. I don't necessarily ready to call him that. I think by body weight, he's the best in the world right now. But here's the person that everybody says is the greatest powerlifter all the time, and I feel like he's more than meeting that mark that I'm talking about.
No, I mean, that's a fair argument, too.
Yeah, so I'm just curious about it. I think it leads to a lot of different conversations. I think we should be careful about, when I quit doing CrossFit, and I actually quit doing CrossFit before I quit the CrossFit gym, but my lightest body weight was at 215 in the CrossFit gym, which is really thin for either one of us now. Mm-hmm. But that was my lightest weight in the CrossFit gym. When when I decided to move over to powerlifting, I thought it was an excuse to eat everything I wanted, eat like shit. And I'd worked very, very hard to get to a healthy body weight in CrossFit. I used powerlifting as an excuse to get as fat as I fucking wanted to, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, that is not the path to be the best powerlifter you can be. It's fucking not. And you think about how little strength I've gained in total. You can say I put 400 pounds on my total because I effectively did. But when you consider I was 215 and pulled 500 pounds, bench press 275, which is very modest, and squatted 385, and now I'm 275 now, but then I was 300 and only deadlifted, I probably would have had a 600 plus pound deadlift, to be honest with you. But I only deadlifted, 600 pounds, squatted 5, and benched 4.
Right.
That's a pretty fucking...
That's a
lot of health sacrifice for just 400 pounds.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people listening to this is going to say just 400, but I could have been a very, very healthy and very muscular 242 and totaled the same thing.
Yeah.
If I had done it correctly.
Right.
So, and then how much better would I have been if I was a healthy 300 instead of a fat 300? Because we've already talked about it. My frame can support a healthy 300.
I feel like getting to a healthy 300 is the hard part.
Powerlifting cannot be an excuse to be fat.
Yeah.
Because then you're just not a good powerlifter.
Yeah.
It's going to make you not a good powerlifter.
Right.
It's going to make you forever an intermediate like me if you go into powerlifting just because you think it's
the
lazy way to work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an excuse to eat what you want and lift heavy. Well, maybe to some extent, but you're not going to be a good powerlifter if that's your... if that's your whole mindset, if it's that shallow, you're not going to be good at the sport.
That brings me to something I was thinking about today, and something that really annoys me is the people that say that they work out so they can eat whatever they want. That annoys me so much because, I'm going to eat 5 times a day because I work out so I can eat 5 times a day. It's like, well, you're either going to be super unhealthy and you're eating
you're way overeating, or you're not eating enough. You're eating 300, 400 calorie meals. You're just average.
And that's what gets me, because it's not an easy thing. People think it's this easy thing. I can eat whatever I want and go to the gym and work it off, but it's just, it doesn't work like that.
A good example of this is there was a time when I was at Anytime. I think I was probably high 240s. I made the decision to start eating 4,000 calories a day, which was above maintenance, about 700 calories above maintenance at the time. I ate 4,000 calories a day, but I made myself eat it clean and a balanced macronutrient profile. So even if the meal wasn't clean, it had to fit. Means if I ate a double cheeseburger at lunch or 2 double cheeseburgers at lunch, means I had to have grilled chicken and salad at night, whatever it may be. It was the only time I've ever perfectly tracked macros to a T and bulked at the same time. I lost 6% body fat and gained 12 pounds.
Yeah.
Because I was eating enough protein, I was fueling my muscles appropriately, I was getting bigger, stronger, and less fat all at the same time, only because I decided for 6 weeks I was going to make all those things match. That's the only time I've been able to successfully do that.
But imagine if you did that for a year.
And then, I was eating, my thing was I was going to eat 1 bad meal a day because I had to have it to make that number of calories.
Right.
So I would do, most of the time it was McDonald's double cheeseburgers, a pair of those, and maybe a small fry. And then the rest of my meals were chicken and rice. I remember specifically at the time I was working at Anytime Arab quite a bit, and I would go to Walmart and get a whole tray of raspberries and a couple of protein shakes, and that would be a meal. So 2 core powers, 52 grams of protein, and a tray of blueberries probably isn't 50 carbs.
Right.
Was a meal. When I say it was clean, I'm talking about it was...
Right.
Other than my 1 cheat meal a day to just drive my calories up, it was as clean as it could have fucking gotten.
Yeah.
It was spot on. And I gained that much weight and lost body fat percentage. And I wasn't even on that much gear. Everybody can say, well, that was the gear. Well, I was on fucking 500 milligrams a week of test.
Right.
It's not like I was on a cutting compound or I was on an oral or anything like that that's notorious for making you lose water weight or shredding up. I was just on test at the time.
Right.
If you know anything about steroids, they can make you really fucking hungry to be on sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm ravenous when I'm on a performance enhancing dose anyway. I very easily could have done the same thing, dirty bulked, gained body fat percentage, and not gained near as much muscle.
Yeah.
The food makes a fucking difference.
It does.
Right? It absolutely does. And I just think it's sad. And I have a friend to me that's close to me, and he's a gay man, and he's super judgmental about everything we do anyway, because they're just like super finicky about the way they look. And I understand that to some extent. Yeah. That's fine. But he will tell you that he thinks powerlifting is for fat people. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how much you have a conversation with him about the demographics in powerlifting and the fact that there's a 132-pound male weight class. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you have that conversation with him. When he thinks powerlifter, he automatically thinks Dan Bell before he does John Hack, you know.
Or Mark Bell in his prime.
Dan Bell is stronger than John Hack. But, but best powerlifter of all time, Dan Bell.
Debatable, but yeah.
But, you know, I always found, even though I'm a bigger powerlifter, I always found that to be sad, because it really does the sport a disservice, because, like, it's an incredibly fit sport. 80% of it's an incredibly fit sport. Mm-hmm. And the only you have 10% of the men that are not very fit because they're super heavyweights, and 10% of the women that are not very fit because they're super heavyweights. Outside of that, you're like 80% of these people are walking around in way better shape than anybody you know.
Yeah, I think.
But all of a sudden, it's just deemed the fat sport. I don't know how it got to be that way.
It's just because that's the look, right? And it's because the most popular, like, you think about it. The sport of powerlifting really got most of its attention from Bigger, Faster, Stronger, right? Yeah. So that's Mark Bell in his prime. And
he was 330 pounds or whatever.
Really heavy.
Multiply. Like,
you know, like that's where it got that.
That's where the stigma comes from.
Right. That's it. Yep. You know, because that was the popular thing. That's what everyone looks to when they think of powerlifting. They don't, if you're not in the sport, you don't think about the John Hacks. You don't think about Jessica Bettner, Heather Connor, Joe Sullivan. Like, you don't think about these people who are just like absolutely ripped.
Dr. Lane fucking walks out of fucking like, dude, he is rail thin. Yeah. And I realize he's not like super thin. He's got a lot of muscle on him. Yeah. But he is not a big man. No. And he fucking killed it.
Yeah. 205. 205 was weight class, 1670 total. In the master's class. I mean,
it's kind of hard. I mean, it's hard to fuck with. Drug free, like super thin. Like, that guy's incredibly fit. Mm-hmm. Nobody more disciplined about their food on the planet, I guarantee you.
Oh yeah.
It's not a fat sport, but it has that stigma, and it's wild to me. And I feel bad about having, locally anyway, about having contributed to that.
You know, I think one thing could change that, and that's get a really big powerlifting meet that ESPN is going to show. And you'll see all these different body types coming in.
Yeah, I mean, look at, you know, they did Julius Max's bench press, right?
Right.
The only fit person there was Perseus.
Yeah,
probably. They were all, other than that, they're all pretty much super heavyweight bench pressers. Perseus is actually really heavyweight too. He just looks so good it doesn't fucking matter. Right. He's at 275 and he's fucking shredded. Mm-hmm. But I mean, even looking at that, like, last time I saw bench press on ESPN or something like that, it was what's the Cold Strong? What's his actual name? He's a multiply guy and has like a 1,400-pound bench press. They were it was like ESPN like 3 or whatever, and it was the fucking multiply bench nationals. Mm.
That's gonna probably give some bad taste.
That's gonna leave a bad taste in people's mouths for a lot of different reasons. Like, you know, every gym bro that don't know dick about powerlifting is going to be like, oh, well, they got that shirt that helps them? That's fucked up. And then everybody else is going to be like, that guy's fucking fat. That's so cool. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's an incredible athlete. I'm not taking anything away from him. But, like, it does seem like, and then even World's Strongest Man, even though it favors a more athletic body type right now, I think people that don't know shit about powerlifting kind of think that that's what we do.
This is, very similar.
They think that it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily do us any favors either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's it is disappointing, but I do think, you know, sum up this conversation to some extent. Bigger is better until it ain't.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
You want to be the biggest you can be, the biggest and the healthiest you can be inside your weight class.
Yeah. And
big is only as good as it is healthy, if that makes sense.
So, like, going up a weight class is fine as long as you can maintain it, as long as you don't like.
Well, yes. If you're 5'7" and you're a 220. You probably just need to work on, you know, cutting and bulking until you're a fit 220.
Yeah.
You probably don't need to move up to 242.
Right.
You know? we talked about you probably have the frame for 275, but I'm betting you don't want to be a fat 275. Like, you probably want it to be a healthy. Yeah. You're a healthy 242 now. There's no reason why, if you decided to move up, it might take you years to do it, but there's no reason to think that you can't be a healthy 275.
I think at this point, just on a personal level, I don't think I could get to a healthy 275. It would take too many years, and I would be getting too old. I don't think my body could handle being a healthy 275.
That's another thing, too. We're at an age where it's not necessarily... Time doesn't necessarily permit for me to work on being a healthy 308.
Right.
Time could permit for me to be working on being a healthy 275, but like the years it would take to become a healthy 308, the misery, the cutting, the bulking, the back and forth, the blood work, the managing my drugs, the managing my food, the everything that goes into it. Like, I don't know that I have enough time left to do that. I mean, I think I'll powerlift until they put me in my grave, whether I'm 40 or whether I'm 90. Like, but just looking at the scope of the sport, and it's, you know, anywhere from a 20 to a 45-year-old's game. Like, I don't know that by the time I'm 45, I can be a healthy 308.
Right.
Because it's that long of a game. It is. Even with drugs.
Yeah.
Diet sucks sometimes. You're going to fuck it up. You're going to get it right sometimes. You're probably going to fuck it up more than you get it right. More often than not. Yeah. You have to do it in a way that you are managing your health. I got a kid on the way. I don't necessarily want to die young. So I can't just be a 308 for the sake of being a 308. Like, if I make the sacrifice to be a 308 next time, I have to be a healthy 308.
Yeah. That's just the way it is.
That's not even for me anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
it's out of our hands at this point.
It is, yeah. And like, I really do think the best thing for everybody, whether you're a 132 pound lifter or you're a 308 plus, is to be as heavy as you can and as healthy as you can at the same time. And I really do think that translates back to that 50% or more of your body mass should be skeletal muscle mass.
That's fair.
If you're that thin or that low of body fat, your visceral fat's probably extremely low, which is a big thing for those of us who use PEDs. We store a lot of visceral fat. So that means a lot of people, you know, most of the time, you know, visibly you can be a body fat percentage that you're not necessarily, because you know, skin calipers doesn't take into account visceral fat and stuff like that. Like, a body scan does take into account visceral fat, right? So, like, your visceral fat shouldn't be high. It doesn't matter what your external body fat percentage is. Like, it's unhealthy to have a visceral fat level that's high. But, like, if you have more muscle mass, more than likely your visceral fat's going to be lower, right? Like, you know, so, you know, we should try as hard as we can for the lowest body fat percentage we possibly can, within reason. I don't think there's a reason for a powerlifter to be below probably at 8%.
Right.
But, like,
maybe making weight if they have to, but,
you know, I don't think there's a reason for. And by the way, at 8% visually, you're probably the fucking man.
Right.
To be honest with you. I mean, like, nobody minds how you look if you're 8% body fat.
Right.
So it's, you know, everybody wants to talk about bodybuilders getting less than 1 and shit like that. That's probably on a skin caliper test, but I'm telling you right now, it's not on visceral fat and everything like that. Visceral fat and everything included, I don't think there's a reason for a powerlifter to be below 8%, to be honest with you. But there's also no reason why we should be 20 or 25% body fat. None. That's becoming unhealthy.
Yeah.
I really do think the gist of this conversation is you should be as heavy as you can be with the lowest body fat percentage you can be if you're a powerlifter. So,
yeah,
that's what it is.
I agree. I don't think there's anything to add to it.
I wish that I was a little bit better versed in it and it wasn't just so speculative. I think but at the same time, I feel like I would have a hard time finding even the best of professionals disagreeing with me wholeheartedly on this.
Well, that's the thing. Especially
with that body fat percentage so tied to your health markers.
Yeah, I just don't think anyone would disagree just because it's not really something that you can argue, because typically more muscle mass increases your ability to perform.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I don't see why there wouldn't be a correlation.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I mean, like I said, even if you're talking about these strongmen, I didn't realize people like Mike Jenkins had like freak accidents and died on Thanksgiving in his sleep or whatever. You know, that was a day of much, much heavier strongmen, like I said. But, like, I mean, Brian Shaw is absolutely fucking jacked. Has he got some body fat on him? Yeah. But, like,
But he's big. Like, he's muscular.
Obviously muscular.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, he's not just your average, like, fucking fat guy at the buffet.
Yeah,
like,
no, you can see just by his frame, like, even just in his shirt, like, his shoulders and his traps are just like
dude's got
thick.
fucking 18-inch fucking forearms, dude.
Right?
Like, his forearms are bigger than our fucking biceps. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a fucking giant of a man. He's not that. I mean, could he be healthier? I know he could be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just being 400 plus pounds, right?
But could he be healthier?
You cannot look at him and say that guy needs to be on my 600 pound life.
Right.
He's not that. It's not that body type. It's just not that it. I mean, that's just not it. He's visibly somebody that cares about his health. Mm-hmm. Fact. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. So I do think, really, regardless of the strength sport, I think if you're in a strength sport, I think the plan should be to be as heavy as you can be at the lowest body fat percentage you can be at. Mm. I don't know that there's a reason. I think even Joe's talked about this. There's really not much of a reason for a powerlifter to be over about 15.
Yeah.
Definitely not over 20. So I feel like that's an old Joe Sullivan video. Maybe you should ask him about it now. I would like to know from a trusted source like that what their opinions on it was. Yeah. And I bet even Brandon was a super heavyweight powerlifter when I hired him. He weighs less than I do now. Yeah. But I'd be willing to bet that he would probably say the same thing, despite being on the opposite end of that at one point. Right. So, hello?
They just had to get their input too.
Yeah. I feel like that was a lot of ranting, but I feel like there's a lot of good points made for the most part. I mean,
I think we both kind of ended up at the same agreement at the end. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think that, I think heavier helps. Until it starts messing with your health or messing with your leverages.
Yeah. I know you don't want to repeat what you said 1,000 times already.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is the gist of it. Like, and that's the point that I wanted to get to at the end too, was just, being heavy only gets you so far. Now, you may get heavier on a bulk. You may get heavier than you want to get on a bulk. That's why you cut at the end and you don't continue bulking. One of the things that I'm going through right now is actually that even at 250, which is the heaviest I've been, I'm already thinking, man, I kind of want to cut weight, and it's not, and I'm not going to until after the meet or until, water cut or whatever we have to do to get in the 242 class. But really, like, and it's not just being heavier, because I like being heavier for the same reason that you do. It gives me more confidence. I feel stronger. Mental health reasons. I just feel better, heavier. But I also don't want to get so heavy that I'm just jiggling around everywhere. That's
absolutely. And you also don't want to be so heavy, like I said, that starts negatively affecting your health.
Yeah. So
that's important.
From a what do you call it? It's not narcissistic, but like
more self-centered point of view, maybe.
Well, just a jiggling thing. Like I don't like, because I never did as a young. Well, when I started in the gym and I was like a couple years in, I never jiggled anywhere, And getting older and getting heavier, I started jiggling a little more. Like driving down the road, my belly will be jiggling. I'm like, man, man.
Good thing I'm stronger than everybody,
Exactly, right? So like there's and also just like, even though I do jiggle around a little bit and going into work, everyone always is just like, man, dude, you're just like huge, you're massive, you're a different breed kind of stuff, and it's like, I'm not, man. And I tell my coworkers all the time, I was like, man, because I have two coworkers that are pretty thin. I'm like, man, I was as skinny as you, like, until I took it serious, until I ate so much that I wanted to puke, and I keep trying, telling them.
For those of you who may not be into powerlifting, maybe watching because you just like me and Nathan, or maybe you just found us and you're thinking about powerlifting or something.
And if you made it this far,
really good example of a new body type, a smaller percentage body fat, and more muscle being on their frame at a traditionally fat guy position on the football field. Mm-hmm. And I'm an Auburn fan, just to just let everybody know, so I don't give a fuck about Alabama football. But there was a gentleman, he's only 22 years old now, he's 6'7". He was a very good football player at Alabama. His name's Evan Neal. Mm-hmm. Evan's 6'7" and 330 pounds and has visible abs.
Yeah.
That is a traditionally, if you've watched football, and most of us in America have, offensive linemen are traditionally a fatter position on the football field. This guy was absolutely fucking dominant at the University of Alabama and was much, much fitter and much, much stronger than every offensive lineman on the planet at the time. Yeah. So what we're talking about is not even just directly attached to strongman and powerlifting. It is starting to transcend into all other sports too, like a healthier body fat percentage, more muscle mass on your frame versus your weight allows you to perform better in a heavier at a higher level than your peers that are maybe the same weight, same height, than a higher body fat percentage.
You know, it's interesting. I was listening to a sports podcast, and have you ever heard of water polo?
Yeah.
So they were talking about water polo, and I had never heard about it before. But they were talking about how much strength is required in water polo because you're fighting against the water all the time. You're really wrestling. Like they said, you're wrestling against the other players. And I was just thinking, man, that's just interesting to me. Like the strength that you'd have to have. Because every time I think of sports, I usually think of athletic sports like football, basketball, baseball, more like athletic body types, but like a sport like that where it's like you have to be strong and you have to be able to be, coordinated, strong, fast, all at the same time and fighting against water the whole time. That's just really interesting to me.
It is pretty cool. I mean, I think we'd be surprised by a lot of track and field guys are really strong.
Yeah.
Especially throwers, but like a lot of sprinters. Like, I mean, I remember reading about Usain Bolt having a 600-pound back squat.
Yeah.
That guy's fucking thin to be squatting 600 pounds.
For real.
Like, is it competition depth? I'm guessing it's probably not.
Right.
But like, just for somebody that thin to put 600 pounds on their back, pretty goddamn impressive.
Just to walk it out.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Just have it on the back.
So I mean, I do think that strength in general is something that helps all sports. So I think I've said it on a functional fitness episode. Strength is the greatest function.
Yeah.
And I just, my point with Evan Neal was, here you have, a position that is traditionally thought of as being played by a fat person. And he walks in and he's sub 20% body fat, extremely muscular. He's a little bit, because of that, even though he's the same weight as everybody else, he's a little faster, a little bit more nimble, a little stronger. Like, there's a lot to be said for that. So, I mean, it's not like we're just talking about the world of powerlifting. I think it really does involve pretty much all sports. I mean, look at like, you probably don't watch as much as I do, but like, look at the role of a tight end now in football versus like they use tight ends like wide receivers.
Yeah.
Tight ends now and today's NFL are 240 plus pound wide receivers. Wide receivers typically are around 180 to 205 pounds.
Yeah.
So you're talking about people that are just as athletic and almost as fast as somebody 50 pounds less than them, and they're making a fucking ton of money. They can block, they can catch, they can run, they can do everything a wide receiver can, and then some. And they're bigger, stronger, more athletic body types and still very, very low body fat percentages. I don't know. I mean, I think you see it in a lot of sports. I think we did see it with baseball in the steroid era.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because of steroids, but I think that fitness mattered then more than it probably does now. There's some modern day MLB players that are fucking fat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize that they're probably strong on their legs and they can probably sprint like a motherfucker and they can still throw and they can do all these things. But like, it's not the same era of baseball as it was. It just is what it is. I mean, basketball players now, everybody beats their. I get on the soapbox before. Everybody beats their chest about how great Jordan was, and Jordan was an incredibly, incredibly good basketball player. Look at the size of basketball players versus the size of them in Jordan's era. They were bean poles in Jordan's era. They're all fucking built like Mack trucks now. They're all like they're pretty muscular men for people that have a sport that's 90% cardio.
Right.
Extremely muscular men considering. So I just think that's probably this be as heavy as you can at the lowest body fat percentage thing you can. I think it transcends powerlifting. I think it's sports at large.
I think that
see that on a professional level.
Yeah, I think that makes sense though, because like we've said, as far as like your training goes, right? Like you think about you were just talking about offensive linemen. How much training can they actually get at that heavy body fat percentage? Like realistically, because they're going to tire out.
Yeah, well, especially somebody like Evan Neal probably can practice he probably gets hours of practice on his own.
Right.
That's not even, recorded in the New York Giants facility. You know what I mean? Because he probably has the energy to, because he is a healthier body type than most of his peers. It does translate to more reps, and more reps means you're better at your sport.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to it. I really do, about being a healthier body fat percentage. I think there's a whole lot to it. I don't think that I'm personally tired of it because I've seen myself go through it, but I am tired of the powerlifting's for fatties mentality.
I think
you get a lot of that from the bodybuilding community. God damn. They're butt hurt because you have somebody like John Hack that is much, much stronger than them, but
could also step on stage in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they're extremely fucking butthurt about shit like that, but it's not a fat sport.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate that people like me have made it look like a fat sport.
I think the further we get into powerlifting, especially now with all the good information that is out there, the further away we're going to get from it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to take time.
Look at CT Fletcher's story, eating everything he could, as much as he could, wrecked his own heart, just so he could be the biggest, strongest in the world.
Yeah.
I bet you CT would have much, much wiser advice about that now than he did 30 years ago.
Right.
I mean, he's a prime example of what that lifestyle can do to you versus what Hack and people like that are doing now.
Yeah, you think about longevity, you look one person specifically, and just because I like him a lot, Mark Bell. I mean,
talking about his ability to adapt.
Yeah, he went from going super heavyweight, fairly unhealthy. He talks about it. He said he was unhealthy, took way too many drugs. Now he's running. He's 220, 230, something like that. Shredded. He did a bodybuilding show.
Yeah. He was pretty good at it too. He looked good.
And the whole time he was talking about his powerlifting days, he was the whole thing with me was that every time I competed, when I finished competing, I lost weight. And that was his reasoning for how he managed to stay in it as long as he did. It was because he always.
I'm telling you right now, with his experience and his know-how, at 230 pounds, that guy could gain 15 pounds and be a really, really fucking successful 242 and probably break Masters records today.
Oh yeah, if he wanted.
I mean, I realize he's probably done with it, but
I think his powerlifting career is pretty much behind him.
But I bet Raw he could probably be as good as he's ever been.
Yeah. I think,
to be
so
honest,
too.
I mean, he would probably have to be willing to get into a weight class that he probably isn't comfortable with anymore. It'd probably have to be a 275 because I know Mark's probably a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
But I bet that if he wanted to make a resurgence and just to say he did it, he probably could fuck up Masters at 275, probably real hard.
That would be kind of fun.
I mean, he's the only Masters that's gonna fucking go. He's gonna bench press 500 plus.
Yeah.
Raw,
just casual.
He might only squat the same, but there's no telling what he does.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know. Didn't he hurt himself on a 1,000-pound squat? Wasn't that?
Yeah,
a big deal?
he's squatted pretty heavy since.
Yeah,
I've been watching Mark. I don't watch him as often as you do, but I know I've seen him squat 600 or 700 pounds since then.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I think if he wanted to just take over, if he wanted to retake over powerlifting, he probably could.
Yeah.
At that level, anyway.
At the Masters category.
It is what it is. Long episode ish, but
was it?
It wasn't our longest.
About normal here lately, so we'll take it.
Yeah.
So we got dad jokes.
What was? I'm not going to do a dad joke. I'm going to tell that one that I sent you earlier.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was.
I vaguely remember.
Oh yeah. Did you know that all the zodiac signs have their own haircut?
Do they?
Yeah, except for Cancer.
Shit. I know I thought I shared one, and now I'm upset because I don't see it. I probably sent it to Desi. Oh yeah, I may have sent it to you too. But I locked eyes with the spider, but instead of killing him, I ran away and hid so he can spend the night stressing over where I am. Thought there was another one that I had, but
what do you call a bunch of rabbits walking backwards? a receding hairline.
That's pretty good. Oh man, that reminds me of one that I saw. I'm gonna have to go to Dad Says Jokes though.
Every time the Dad Says Jokes,
it's the best place.
I got some new sources this time. You can't even you can't even come up with a new source.
So I tried to explain to my 4-year-old son that it's perfectly normal to accidentally poop your pants, but he's still making fun of me.
I mean, I would probably make fun of the guy too, to be honest. Dad Says Jokes.
So my wife is leaving me because I'm going bald, but I'm not bothered. It's hair loss.
You're lucky I don't have any service out here. I guess my phone has forgotten your Wi-Fi because I can't get anything. So I guess I'm out of dad jokes.
Well, that'll be a good place to end it on. So.
Yeah, good place.
So thank you guys for watching / listening. Give us a follow, give us a like.
5 stars, please.
5 stars on Spotify.
I'm really sorry about the joke to start the show.
No, you're
maybe we'll snip this and put it at the beginning. My apology, so that everybody has a disclaimer and they know how sorry I am.
That requires effort. This is a low effort podcast. It'll be all right. They'll either be down with it or not. And if they're down with it, they're probably going to listen to the episode. And if they're not, they're just not.
Hey, what does a Catholic priest and McDonald's have in common? They both stick 40-year-old meat between 8-year-old buns. Oh.
Oof.
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 All right.
Yeah.
We gotta end it on that. We gotta go.